Hello，大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。The Western media is aflutter about China again. No, they're not heralding Beijing for its plan for peace in Ukraine. They're busy promoting a report that blames the COVID pandemic on China again, unsurprisingly, with zero evidence and even admitting themselves that they have low confidence in their findings. Today, I'll chat with an American friend who has been following the COVID theories closely and who has some shocking admissions about just how brainwashed the average American is. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Boreham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. The Western media, desperate for more anti-China clicks after Balloongate ran out of air, have a new story to get the masses racked up again. The claim that a new report suggests COVID-19 came from a laboratory leak in Wuhan. The only problem with that claim? There's absolutely no evidence, and even the writers of the report admit they have low confidence in their findings. That's definitely some twisted logic right there, don't you think? Normally, researchers whose findings ultimately aren't backed up with evidence just don't make claims either way at all. But that's not the case in the US today. Truth and fairness doesn't really factor. It's all about drama and clicks. The Wall Street Journal came out with this dramatic headline: Lab leak most likely origin of COVID-19 pandemic, Energy Department now says. Now, I know you guys are all too smart to take Western media headlines at face value, but this one's even funnier than normal. Let's continue to read so we can find the punchline. The US Energy Department has concluded that the COVID pandemic most likely arose from a laboratory leak, according to a classified intelligence report recently provided to the White House and key members of Congress. See the wording there? Most likely. But let's keep reading. The shift by the Energy Department, which previously was undecided on how the virus emerged, is noted in an update to a 2021 document by Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines' office. The article continues. The new report highlights how different parts of the intelligence community have arrived at disparate judgments about the pandemic's origin. The Energy Department now joins the Federal Bureau of Investigation in saying the virus likely spread via a mishap at a Chinese laboratory. Okay, interesting, but you know how Western media is, you guys. We really need to keep reading if we want to find any shred of truth. But before that, I want to quickly read the headline of the Wall Street Journal article one more time. Lab leak most likely origin of COVID-19 pandemic, Energy Department now says. That sounds very certain, right? Well, we need to scroll all the way down to the 5th paragraph for the real facts. Are you ready? Are you sitting down? The Energy Department made its judgment with low confidence, according to people who have read the classified report. What? So you were lying to me all the time, Wall Street Journal? Well, of course they were. We wouldn't expect anything less. So literally, the Energy Department admits they have absolutely zero evidence and are absolutely uncertain, going as far as to say they have low confidence in their findings. Then I have news for you. Those are not findings at all, my friend. Those are opinions. Of course, Western media are using this for clicks and have no qualms misleading their readers, the majority of whom will just read the headline in the first 1 or 2 paragraphs at most, none of which hints at the actual truth of the matter. But good news, it's not all Western media. Check out this blurb from Democracy Now!
The Wall Street Journal's reporting the Energy Department has revised its assessment of the origins of COVID-19, saying the spread of the virus was likely an unintentional leak from a Chinese lab. The agency, however, has only low confidence in the theory, according to reports. The FBI has previously said it also believes with modern confidence COVID-19 is the result of a lab leak. The latest news widens the split in the U.S. intelligence community as the National Intelligence Council and 4 other agencies have concluded COVID-19 was naturally transmitted by an infected animal.
Do not worry, not all Americans have had the wool pulled over their eyes. I want to bring in a friend of mine, Brad Bella from Cleveland, Ohio. Now, Brad is probably the most clued up on COVID-19 theories that I know. Hey, Brad, thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, as you and I both know, the origin of COVID is definitely not a clear-cut case. And even this new report, which Western media are using as some kind of smoking gun, admits to having low confidence in its findings. Many people outside the US are talking about Fort Detrick. Without getting me banned from YouTube, though, do you think that's legitimate to suggest that COVID might have come from there?
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot of things that people are talking about for Fort Detrick's outside of the US. And because they are seeing that there is some information about outbreak that occurred in that area
Mm.
during the time right before we all knew COVID-19, there are a lot of people asking about that and wondering what's going on there.
So it's legitimate to question, you reckon?
Oh, certainly, certainly. It's
Mm.
always good to question about where things have come from.
For sure. Hey, I'm really curious as to how much the average American knows about different narratives of Fort Detrick in particular. Is that common knowledge there?
No, it's not so common for most of the people. Most of the people have no idea about it, and in fact, I've talked to several of my friends in the U.S. About that, and they had no idea that there was an actual outbreak that occurred of some unknown respiratory virus in that area. So, no, it's very uncommon for a lot of Americans to actually hear about it. If they did hear about it, it's because they're clued into some other information through various journalist outlets. And there was very, very small information in the local news that people would be able to see. And you could still find those things online.
Well, so yeah, I did hear that there was like an old person's home a few tens of miles away from Fort Detrick where there was an outbreak. Do you know much about that?
Yes, there was quite a few people who actually died in that area, and most of those people have refused to actually be interviewed. As
Mm.
far as I know, still there haven't been any testing of that population or any real inquiry into what took place and why they actually had an outbreak that occurred for an unknown respiratory virus. And it's in the papers, it's in their news, and they still haven't looked into that further from
And
my
that was
understanding.
and that was before COVID-19 as we know it hit Wuhan, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, interesting. Now, you've shared with me a heck of a lot of different theories. And again, I don't want to get too deep into them because I'm a bit worried about being banned from YouTube. But if you could suggest one or two different topics or people for our viewers to look into further, what would you suggest?
Yes, some of the people that I have looked into about this would be some of the actual mainstream reporters that have actually talked to the scientists in the laboratories. NBC News specifically sent over a journalist over there, and they did an interview that you can find on NBC's website. And they have a lot of information with the actual scientists, the lead researchers over there. And also, one of the things that you can look into with the Western side of things, specifically in America, is Dr. Barrick. I believe his name is spelled Baric.
Mm.
He is one of the leading researchers about COVID and the virus itself. And Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci both have been questioned about what Dr. Barrick is doing. Specifically, Rand Paul has been questioning Dr. Fauci about what Barrick has been doing in his laboratories. And there's a lot of reports that you can actually find coming out about Dr. Barrick previously, along with the fact that he's given tons of speeches through the US government and through his outlets that he's been participating in like the NIH and other areas. So he's a very interesting person to look into and research and find out some more information. The other thing that I would say is another good area is looking into Trump, where he spoke about e-cigarettes during the time of around August. There's around 200 or so cases of unknown respiratory virus that they said was linked to e-cigarettes. And so if you look at some of the scans of their lungs or things like that, those things look kind of similar to the lung scans of a COVID lung. So there's some information that people are trying to understand if there's any type of overlap or connection to that, or maybe that those two viruses were actually separate. And it's very hard to say what took place.
Very interesting. So contrary to the Wall Street Journal and Western media this week, the jury is definitely still out on where COVID originated. Brad, thank you again so much for coming on the show. Okay, let's quickly take a look at the latest Reports on China poll over on YouTube in my latest video about the US media circus over the South China Sea. My French wasn't as professional as usual, shall I say. Now, I asked you guys if you think my swearing was okay or whether I should avoid it. Quite a mixed response. 54% of you felt swearing is okay and shows passion. 19% think it's okay every now and then. 10% feel it's not a good look but understand the anger. And 15% of you would rather I didn't swear at all. Thanks so much for voting, you guys. And as always, I'd love to hear what you guys think down below. Also, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.